Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Lorraine, and in this video, I'm going to be going over Gemini Sun with Aquarius Moon. I'm going to start off the video by talking about what a typical Gemini Sun is like, and then I'm going to get into the moon placement and talk about it as a combination. So if there's certain aspects of the Gemini Sun description that don't quite resonate or make a lot of sense, then hold on until you hear the moon placement, and it'll probably tie together quite nicely and make a lot of sense. Little disclaimer before I get started that, even when you do hear your moon placement, there may be some aspects that don't quite make sense. Maybe it's a little different because I can't see the rest of your chart. So keep in mind, this is only 2 placements of your entire chart. And so when I am talking about these descriptions and this combination, I mean like in general, most of the time, tendencies. This is what the person with this pairing would act like, barring any other placements that would counteract these expressions. I will also probably be glancing over here from time to time because I have my very thorough notes and I don't want to miss anything. When I'm talking to the camera, honestly, my mind goes blank. So I have very carefully crafted notes that I put together myself. So just so you know, let's get started with Gemini Sun. So basically, I'm going to list a few descriptive words of Gemini, and then I'm going to get into giving you a more complete picture of how this plays out in real life. I'm all about explaining things practically, giving you a complete picture of this, of like a real person with this pairing. And so Gemini Suns are very energetic, social, adaptable, conversational. They're great communicators. They're persuasive, curious, restless, easily bored, high-strung. They tend to quite enjoy gossip, and they are a bit disorganized. So Geminis are often social butterflies, and again, this can depend on whether this person is introverted or extroverted. I know a lot of people assume that all Geminis are extroverted because they tend to be that way, but some are introverted. Even if they are introverted, they're usually very good at socializing and communicating. It's just whether or not that exhausts them or not, and they need alone time. But for the most part, they just really enjoy having conversations with all types of people, and they're good at it. They make really good first impressions because they're really able to tailor their conversations and how they present themselves to who they're around. They're really good at reading a room. Now, Geminis have a lot of energy. They are very easily restless and they're very easily bored, and so they need a lot of stimulation. Now, because of this, they not only enjoy change, but they actually need it. They need that variety, that fresh experiences and that change in their life in order to keep them entertained. Because they're always on the go, looking for new topics, places to explore, things to learn, people to talk to, their knowledge of subjects and their connections to people tend to be a little more surface level and not super deep. And that's because they just don't, because they're always on the move to new, they don't have enough really time to be able to go deeper into a subject or go deeper with connecting with someone. And it's because they get bored so easily. And so they tend to know a little about a lot and never really master anything, kind of a jack of all trades. So if a Gemini does actually know a lot about one's particular subject, or like maybe even mastering it, going to school for it, pursuing it as a career, that sort of thing, or if they have a really deep connection with someone, they're married to them, very committed to them, that's something that they're learning, or that someone that they're with has managed to keep them interested for a very long time to the point that they're willing to commit to it. That's a really actually impressive feat because they're so easily bored. So if it's a subject that they're learning, maybe they're going to school for it, then it's something that doesn't have a ceiling. It's something that just keeps them interested to where they're always learning new information in it. There's new levels to it. There doesn't have a ceiling. And anytime they learn a new piece of information, it's just as exciting as when they first learned about the topic. It's going to be something like that. There can't be a ceiling to it. I feel like as soon as Gemini feels like they've mastered something and there's nothing more like new to learn, like there's no point. It's so boring for them. Most Geminis would have abandoned it far before they got to that point. And so if they are mastering a subject, it must be very interesting to them and have new levels to it. And if they're really committed to someone and have that like either deep friendship or deep relationship with someone, then that's a person who is really able to adapt and keep up with Gemini. They're definitely not boring. It's someone who's always growing with them, who's always down for their adventures or their fresh experiences and willing to do hobbies with them, or at the very least hear about them and be just as excited to hear about them as they were the first time Gemini told them about something cool they did. They actually love to listen to people who are experts, masters, or just know a lot about one subject. And that can actually be really attractive and interesting to them because they're not generally like that. And because then if you know a lot about something, or you're an expert or a master, chances are that is information that Gemini does not know. And so it's very fascinating to them, because they probably don't know it because they haven't been able to devote enough time to get to that level. And so it's really fascinating and probably attractive to them to be able to learn that from someone, and because then you're connecting on that intellectual level, which Gemini really likes. Now with Gemini, they are very energetic, but sometimes this isn't always physical energy. I think pretty much every Gemini has that mental energy. They're very mentally energetic, and then some can be physically energetic, and that usually kind of depends on if they're more extroverted or introverted. If they're more introverted, it's mostly just that mental energy. And if they're more extroverted, it's usually kind of a combination of both, but they'll probably express that energy more physically in order to try and process everything that's going on there in their head. So Gemini believes in many truths, and like an infinite number of truths, as opposed to Gemini's opposite sign in Sagittarius, which is in the search of or believes in one absolute truth. For Gemini, something can be true for one person while the opposite can be true for another person, and Gemini views both as being equally valid and equally true. And Gemini also gets very caught up in the moment. When they're having a conversation with someone, that's the most important conversation at that time. And so when they're talking with someone, they could be talking with person A and agreeing with them that what they believe is true, and then they could have a conversation with person B, and now that conversation is the most important, and they could agree with person B, who believes the exact opposite of person A. And then people can kind of wonder about this inconsistently, like, you agreed with both of us, and it's because one, they got caught up in the moment, and that's the most important thing in that moment. But also, again, Gemini believes in multiple truths, and so they believe that person A is true because they believe it's true for them, and person B as well. So when people wonder, like, oh, which one do you believe? Like, for Gemini, it's both. It's all of them. No two beliefs are mutually exclusive in their mind because it's true for someone. And this is kind of how I imagine Gemini. Like, you know, when someone starts drinking really early in the day, and they usually get called out for it, and then they're like, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Gemini is like getting called out for talking about an opinion or belief that contradicts something they said earlier, and they're like, it's true for someone, or I got caught up in the moment. And that's pretty much a good summary of Gemini. And now another caveat to this is that Gemini, I think, is notorious for saying things and making plans and then just as easily going back on them. And again, it's from getting caught up in the moment. In the moment, it was the most important thing, and they're like, yes, let's do it, and they agree to it, but then the moment passed, and they're probably caught up in a new moment that is now the most important thing, or they could have just completely forgot about the first thing that they agreed to. So, like, a good way to summarize that would be flaky, I guess, yeah, which as an Aries I find extremely frustrating. And now, like I said about Gemini saying one thing and then agreeing to the complete opposite, it's also really hard for Gemini to like keep track of everything that they say and everything that they agree to, because for them it's as fast as like their thoughts. It would be like trying to keep track of every thought that you had in a week. And you're probably going to have some pretty contradictory thoughts throughout the week. It's based, how do you feel about your life and your job when you're stuck in traffic on the way to work Monday morning to a job that you don't enjoy, versus how do you feel about your life Friday when you're about to go party for the weekend or go on a week trip. So those will probably be some conflicting thoughts and feelings, but for us that's considered normal. For Gemini, like, that's how it is when they're expressing information and points of view and opinions and beliefs. It's as fleeting as that, and it can be quite contradictory. And to them that's normal, because Gemini is actually quite good. That's the sign of the twins. It's a dual sign. It's like they have an alter ego. It's like they have two sides to them. I mean, ask any Gemini you know, or if you're a Gemini, then you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know, like, if you ask a Gemini, do you feel like two different people? Every single one of them will be like, yes, all the time. Like, it's like they have an alter ego, or they just have just two different sides to them, and both are just as genuine, and it depends which side you're getting, which one wants to express itself today, you know? Now, like I mentioned, Gemini loves talking, communication, conversations, and if they're a little more introverted, I find this is usually directed a little more into, say, like writing, texting, social media. If they're more extroverted, then that's having conversations and talking with people, and usually it's the more extroverted ones I find that tend to really enjoy the gossip. But I think pretty much every Gemini enjoys gossip, and I feel like when they say they don't, they're lying. That's a different side of them that was out that day. The other side of them loves gossip. So, and now Geminis are like really good at gossip too. They know everything. Like, if at work, they know everything that's going on. If you want to know all of the hot gossip, if you want to know like the rumors, everything that's going on, ask a Gemini. They, like, my mom's a Gemini and she knows everything that happens at work. She knows absolutely everything. If you want to know what's going on, you talk to her. If she doesn't know, she will find out. It's like she's got eyes and ears and spies everywhere. She is the first to know about everything. And part of why is because she, again, is that Gemini able to get along with everyone genuinely. So everyone likes her. And so they tell her everything. So then she knows everything. All right. So now I wanted to add some of the unevolved characteristics of Gemini. And I wanted to make sure that I gave them a fair shake first, because I feel like they get a lot of hate, especially online. I take these sun moon combination videos very seriously. I put a lot of work and effort into them because I'm making them for someone who either has this pairing or loves someone who does. And so I want them to be beneficial. You know, the last thing I want is for someone to come watch these videos and feel like shit about their sign, because I know how that feels and it's just completely unhelpful. So I want to make sure that when I make these videos, I'm doing every sign and every pairing justice, and that I'm showing that every sign and every pairing has the potential to be a great person when they're healthy, and to really show what all of the signs and pairings have to offer. And so I'll be honest, that's kind of why I fell behind in the sun moon combinations, because I got to Gemini and it was just one of the most challenging signs to fully figure out. And it's not like I didn't know about them before, and it's not even like I particularly dislike Gemini. It's just that, like, you know, we're all approaching astrology from our own biases, and I'm an Aries, you know, that is sextile Gemini, so that, like, I kind of get them a little bit, but the rest of my chart, I have 3 planets in Sagittarius, which is opposite Gemini, and then I have 2 planets and my midheaven in Pisces, which is square Gemini, and so I have a lot of opposite, like, difficult aspects to Gemini, so it was just difficult for me to fully get them, like fully understand them on a deep level and really appreciate them and what they have to offer. And I didn't want to make these videos until I got to that point, and I don't make any of my videos until I'm at that point, because the last thing I want is to just pile on the shitty stereotypes, because every sign gets that enough already, including I think especially Gemini. But on the other hand, I'm very aware that every sign has their challenges, their unevolved characteristics, and so I don't want to completely gloss over those, and so I'm going to get into some of the unevolved characteristics of Gemini now. So unevolved Geminis can be cunning, superficial, manipulative, and they can be very, like, when, again, unevolved, not all Geminis, but they are very good at lying and bending the truth. And they can also be unfaithful to their partners. And unfortunately, some stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. And unevolved Geminis can be two-faced in the worst way, you know, where they're talking, like, they're really nice, polite to your face, and then they're talking shit about you and spreading rumors behind your back. Or they do something really shitty and then they pretend it never happened and they act like everything's normal. And then if you ever try to confront them about it, they're the kind of people that will either avoid it, deny it, or lie some more. And again, this is unevolved Geminis. It's essentially the worst expression of the sign. That said, though, most Geminis are big avoiders, especially when it comes to conflict. So even if they are a generally healthy Gemini, if you try confronting conflict head on, it's probably not going to go very productively, or at least it's just going to make them very uncomfortable. Why is your butt wet? Say hello. You're so pretty. So now we get to Aquarius Moon. So Aquarius Moons are very intuitive, rational, individualistic, and idealistic. It's quite an objective placement. Usually Aquarius is a pretty good balance of thinking and feeling, not necessarily feeling like strong emotions on their part though, but they're really good at understanding and listening to other people's feelings. So they're good at being empathetic and they're good listeners. But with it being in the moon placement and then also having Gemini Sun, this is going to be a very objective and person that does not get worked up emotionally. They're very emotionally stable, but they could actually feel like at times possibly emotionally non-existent. Obviously, like, they're still a human, so they have emotions, but they're not the kind of people to put them on display for everyone to see. They're not going to air their dirty laundry. They're not going to make a scene. They're not going to have a blow up or just, you know, a really like emotional outburst. And they also just have a tendency to rationalize how they feel. And I think especially having 2 air placements here. Aquarius is also really known for being aloof, and that's because they love their freedom and their individuality so much. A lot of people think of Aquarius like they're, aloof, detached is just because they just don't give a shit about other people. And that's actually not the case. It's just that they value their independence and their autonomy the most, and so they can't handle clingy, possessive, or jealous people. And so that's when like they can cut ties with someone. Like that's for them is a deal breaker. As soon as they feel trapped, that's when they're gone, and so they make a point of kind of sussing people out before they get super close with them and make any kind of commitments with people, because they do not want that like ball and chain. And even if it's not romantic, they don't want to be tied down, and they don't want people cramping their like their space, how they do things. Aquarius likes to keep people at arm's reach because they want to make sure that they're still going to be able to do what they want to do. But at the same time, I find Aquarius to be some like very good listeners, and also Gemini too, like as long as it's like in the moment. So this is someone who probably is actually really good at listening to other people's emotions and helping them. I find Aquarius placements to be the kind of people where you can just sit in their company and feel at ease. There's not awkward silences, and you can also kind of talk to them about anything, and they're not very judgy. They don't get worked up and stuff. And so they're really calm, like cool-headed, and can probably give good advice too if you ask. So this is someone who is very intellectual. They, like I said, they rarely get worked up emotionally. They rationalize their emotions. The Aquarius Moon definitely adds an eccentric, quirky twist to the typical Gemini pursuits, how they're always pursuing new things, new hobbies. Things that excite them the most are probably going to be like the typical Aquarius quirky, like, aliens, conspiracy theories, documentaries, the environment, politics, psychology, humanitarian efforts, charities, cults, even like spiritual unknowns, things like that. They like really cool, weird shit, probably fashion trends. They're probably like starting all of their own fashion trends, because like Gemini loves new. So they're probably reinventing themselves all the time, because that's also something Aquarius likes to do. This is also going to be someone who thinks a lot about the collective, like humanity as a whole, society in general, and wants to make it better. And break out of like societal pressure and norms. And they're naturally rebellious. They want to go against the grain. They want to go against the norm and be different and be unique. That's a really important thing for Aquarius, is to be unique. And so this is probably someone who kind of desires to like be a hippie. Well, they probably also desire to be a whole bunch of other things, because we also have Gemini that's just like, so this is someone who, like I said, is probably down to reinvent themselves more than once. And now, in order to be like in this person's life, because this is someone that's going to be hard to pin down, because you have like Gemini, they want new experiences, they get bored so easily. And then you've got Aquarius, they want to be free. They want to do what they want to do. And so in order to like be in this person's life, is you have to connect on an intellectual level first and foremost. Like otherwise this person is going to have no interest. Like if you can't hold a stimulating conversation, if you talk about everything there is to talk about in the first hour and you have nothing else to talk about, like goodbye. Like you cannot be a permanent fixture in this person's life, because they need to be able to connect on an intellectual level continuously, because that that first connection is like good, but if you can't keep them interested, then a Gemini is going to get really bored. And they could get into a relationship, as long as they don't feel trapped or tied down in that relationship. It's going to have to be someone who they connect to intellectually, and who can keep up with wanting to do new things. Like it's always fresh and exciting. And now this is going to depend on other placements, but this is a pairing I see enjoying casually dating, where they're able to date multiple people at once. And if they do get into a more committed relationship, I see it being non-monogamous. I don't know. To me, this pairing just screams poly. And now, obviously not everyone with this pairing is going to be non-monogamous, but I see this being someone who has like a lot of people in their life, as opposed to select close friends. They may have many acquaintances, friends, but not close friends, and they may even cycle through friend groups fairly quickly. This is also someone who's going to be a little more sure in their opinions and a little more opinionated than other Geminis. I find out of all of the air signs, Aquarius, they like to have their own opinions, and they're not afraid to ruffle some feathers by expressing that. And this is someone who probably has great ideas, especially very big idealistic ideas about like society, but then they could have no fucking clue how to actually put it, like make it work practically. Like someone do it, and it's like, it doesn't work in real life. But actually if their Mercury's in Taurus, then they probably may be able to turn it into something practical. It's just a matter of whether Taurus can understand Aquarius, because that's a difficult aspect. But it could be a force to be reckoned with, because they'd have some pretty great ideas, and then Taurus Mercury would actually be able to come up with a feasible plan. But if they have Gemini Mercury, they probably have just these like utopian ideas that never really go anywhere. That's all I have planned for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, considered liking this video and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who has helped support this channel so far and brought it to where it is. I'm monetized with over 2,000 subscribers now, so thank you very much.